Hey guys, so in this video today, I'm going to show you real quick. It's going to be a short video, and I'm going to show you how to think about your drawing if you want to do bubble letters. So stuff like this, like if you've got a presentation to do and you want a big thing, a big eye-catching title, and you don't. I mean, you can only print so large on typical printers. So if you want to draw it out, I'm going to show you how to think about that so that you have consistency and your letters look good. So the thing that I do, there's basically 2-3 different approaches that I can take to this. The first approach is whatever letters I'm going to do, you want to plan out your space. So, first of all, I want to think about. I'll think about letters first, individually. So what I can do is I can actually just draw the letter like I'm writing a note or something, and then use the letter as like a skeleton for my bubble letter around it. So if I'm doing my last name, I'll just write in all caps, and I'm going to write it big and kind of spaced out. So there I've got my last name written, right? So now what I'll do is I'll use that like a skeleton, like I said, and I will go around those letters. And when I go around those letters, I have to be consistent with the line I use. So I'll make a decision beforehand. Do I want to use geometric lines? Do I want to use organic lines? Do I want it to be blobby, shaky? I can make, but I want to make all those decisions before I start so that all my letters kind of look the same. So I'll just do kind of organic letters, but I'm not going to do anything fancy. So I'm just going to kind of make the space as I build the letters around my skeletal letters, my skeleton letters. I'm just going to try to be conscious of making the space from the marker that I'm using, keeping that space the same all the way around the letter. So I'll start with my B here. So there's those inside pieces to the B, my R, and I'm kind of squaring off the edges, but not like super crisp. So there's definitely a quick direction change, but not super sharp. So it still has this kind of organic feel to it. So kind of rounded edges, but then most importantly, like I said, I'm paying attention to how far I'm keeping my marker lines away from my skeleton letters. So there you have it. So you can see it's not very fancy. I didn't do anything crazy graffiti like. I just, like I said, kept that marker line about the same distance, and it wavers here and there. Like the inside of the O could have been a little bit bigger, but most importantly, when you're doing this, you want to space your skeletal letters out. You want to space those skeletons out a little bit further so that you have room to build the rest of the letter around it. So the other way that we can approach this is we can think about the letters as shapes. So if I'm doing, let's do the word book. I can draw a shape and then basically carve my letters out of that shape. So if I use let's say a triangle, so I'll give myself a triangle. And some shapes work better than for some letters than others. So sometimes I'll do this where I decide a shape arbitrarily, and I put, I count out how many of those shapes I need for each letter. I'll draw them out and I'll start sketching those letters. And then I realize that it doesn't work. Like the letter O, sometimes the letter E, if like for a triangle, if I'm drawing a triangle and I'm trying to squeeze the letter E into a triangle, those horizontal bars really don't read that well when you get to the point of the triangle. So then in that case, it's time to rework my idea. So we're doing the word book. So here I've got 4 triangles drawn. So now within each triangle, now I would do this in pencil first, like I said, just to make sure that it's going to work. But I think this is going to work. And if it doesn't, I'll just start over. So as I draw these letters, I have to stay within these triangles that I've drawn. So when you're doing it that way, you have to kind of think like, what makes an O look like an O? Sometimes an O and a D, depending on what shape you're doing, those can look very, very similar. How do you differentiate those two when you're doing a font that's carved out of a shape? So there you see the word book. And that K, I'm not crazy about it, but it works. So that's the second way to do it. So with this one, it's almost, if you've taken my 3D design class, we talk about additive sculpting and subtractive sculpting, where additive sculpting is where you take stuff and you add it to your sculpture to make a bigger sculpture, and subtractive sculpting is where you actually carve away like a marble or an ice sculpture or something like that. So in this case, in the first one, I think of it as additive sculpting, and in this one, it's like subtractive sculpting. So you start with a triangle and then you cut pieces off of that triangle to make it look like the letter that you need. So the third way to do this is like I did on this. So the word letters was done using circles, and I carved my letters out of each individual circle. But for this top word, what I did was I started with a shape, and I put all of the letters inside of that single shape. So I can do I could even do like a blobby kind of organic. So something like that. So if I want to do the word Cousino, N-O, 7 letters. 7, yeah. I'm counting on my hand. Just so now I could measure this from end to end and then divide by 7, and that would give me a precise measurement of the width of each single letter, or I can just eyeball it. So with 7 letters, 7 is an odd number. So that means I will have 1 letter right in the middle, and then I'll have 3 letters on either side of that. So even number words, words that have an even number of letters are easier to do, because then you just break it up into halves and then it works. So and then 3 on each side. Yeah, it's close. My middle letter is a lot bigger than my other letters, so I'll squeeze it in a little bit. There we go. So Cousino. And again, with this, like the last one, like the word book, when I did that, I don't want my letters to go beyond the blob shape that I've drawn. Oh, I spelled Cousino wrong. COO. Well, that's embarrassing. I said the word book, and then I thought about the 2 O's in the word book, and then it threw me off. It's hard to draw and talk at the same time. Let's try this again. You big dummy. All right, Cousino this time. And this time I'll fix that center letter. Make it the right size this time. And I made it a little bit more blobby. So there we go. Now I'm going to just, because it's embarrassing to make the same mistake twice, I've actually written Cousino at the top so I can keep track visually as I ramble senselessly. So here we go. And like I said, as I draw, I don't want to go outside of the lines of that blobby shape that I've drawn. And I's can be tough, the letter I, just because visually they take up way less space than most of the other letters. So a lot of times I will add the cross. It's not just a vertical line. But the nice thing about I's is that if you plan it out and you run out of space, if you got a big word, the I is somewhere where you can conserve space. So there we go. So there's the word Cousino, and it all follows that shape. So that's the 3 different ways that you can think about making your letters when you're making bubble letters. So you can draw the letters and then kind of build the bubble letter around the drawing. You can start with a shape, any shape, and you can kind of carve those letters out, or you do like that, and you could start with one big shape, divide the space into smaller pieces, and then carve each letter out of there. So this information will help you. You'll probably use this for a variety of assignments in my class. But even if you don't, it'll serve you in other classes too if you're doing presentations or stuff like that. So hope you enjoy it. Hope it was helpful. I'll see you later.